Hey guys, Chris, Jeremy, Jeshwanth, and Cheryl here. Hello. From Harmony Turbines. We are doing the second video in our series of our new breakthrough announcement. Basically, the last video you saw from us, we were saying that we have finally cracked the problem with our charge controller. In fact, we don't need a charge controller in this system. Today, we're going to show you a little bit more in depth on how that works. We have our milling machine here that is going to simulate the wind for us because we can drive this at whatever we want. We've got our torque meter on there. So basically, we're going to be operating this in RPM ranges that are indicative of what we would see outside at the turbine. Keep in mind, guys, our generator is tuned to the voltages that we want for our battery bank, and if once we have our new scoops on, we're going to actually see what range they operate in from an RPM standpoint. If it's necessary, we will include in the system an actual say 1:2 or 1:3 gear ratio. It'll be a bolt-on unit that goes right on top of the generator. You wouldn't even know it's there, really. It will translate from 1 RPM at the turbine will turn into, say, 2 or 3. So 1 revolution becomes 2 or 1 revolution becomes 3 at the generator. Whatever we need to get to the RPM ranges that we need to generate both the voltages and amperages that we need for the system. But all of this is going to still have all that soft start capability in there and no cogging, basically totally flawless how it began and started up and then generated power. You'll be able to see that with the torque meter as well. So at this point, I'm gonna stop talking so much. We're gonna turn on, first we'll turn on some loads. All right, so when we have all of these on, we have what, Jeshwanth, 690 watts? 690 watts. So just below, let's call it 700 watts of draw when we have all of the lights on for our battery bank. We've let our battery bank drain down a little bit, so it's low right now. We have a tiny little battery bank. You guys are gonna have a much bigger battery bank in your home than this, but it is gonna demonstrate clearly what we're talking about. So let's go ahead and turn on right now, Jeremy. So we're at 200 RPM right now, and we are just below the point where it would start pushing power into the battery bank. Right here, we're showing 0 amps is going into the system. Okay, so we know from experimenting that right below 200 is the threshold. As soon as we get above 200 RPM, we begin generating power and pushing it into the system. So we're gonna go ahead and bump it up to 250. Now we're at 250. Now we see a little bit of torque. Those are Newton meters, or is that foot-pounds?
Newton meters. Okay,
so they're Newton meters. And then we have our system running at 250 RPM. So with the torque and the RPMs, we can actually calculate what our efficiency is of everything. And I think when we did our testing, we were as high as 87% efficiency on our system. So our generator is performing quite nicely. And at this point, we are now gently charging the system. We're putting about 3.5 amps into the system at 48 volts. So let's, for easy math, start just saying 50 volts. We're putting 50 volts at just under 4 amps. That would be about 200 watts of power that we are putting into the system. We're taking off about 200 watts of power with the 2 light bulbs right now. So we're at kind of an equilibrium state. What's going in is pretty much equaling what's going out. That's why you're not going to see a lot of change on the voltmeter. So now, if we go ahead and bump up another notch, now you're going to see these numbers rising because we are actually charging the system. Just like your home, your inverter is going to be running your home and sending power to your home using the load. And when you finally hit that equilibrium, you're going to be putting in what you're taking out. As you go above that and you start charging faster than you're using, now your battery bank is going to begin charging. So we can safely go up to 58 volts with this battery bank because that puts us just around 14.5, 14.6 volts per battery, which is still a safe range to be charging these batteries at. So if you take, can you do on the math 58 divided by 4, just so we know what that is?
14.5.
Yeah, 14.5. A normal car, when you're driving down the road, charges your battery in your car at 14.4 volts. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and crank it up another notch. So now we're at 350. Now we're pushing 13 amps into the system. So 13 amps, that is roughly
663 watts.
663? Yep. Okay, so we're pushing 663 watts into the system. So now we are definitely bulk charging these batteries because we're putting in triple what is being used on the system. So you're seeing this go up. But you're not going to get to a state where, even with this tiny battery bank, guys, it's not going to be suddenly like over the unsafe voltage. Remember, 58's our cutoff. We don't want to go above 58 because that would start hurting the batteries. We'd be pushing too much into them. So now we're at 400 RPM and we're at 53 volts and we are at 18 amps. So 53 times 18.
954.
954. All right, guys, we're just below a kilowatt right now. We are, with our generator, just pushing under a kilowatt of power into our system. And it's incredibly smooth, incredibly easy. I don't know, we don't have a quick way to calculate what the actual torque and the RPMs are, do you? That's a pretty big calculation. Mm-hmm. Okay. But we're still in a very, very safe voltage range. Now, we're gonna go up one more click here. So now we're at 450 RPM, 55 volts, and we're pushing 22 amps.
1200 kilowatts.
1200? Okay, so we're pushing 1200 watts into the system right now. So we're 1.2 kilowatts with this right now. So we're pushing 1.2 kilowatts of power to charge into this little tiny battery bank, and there are no sparks, there are no explosions. We're still very, very safe. And here's the important part, guys. You can see that it's almost like at equilibrium here, okay? 55 volts, and we're actually dropping. So we're not at a state where it's gonna, you know, the naysayers, the people out there that are like, oh, you're gonna have only a tiny little window where you can charge. No, that's BS. And we're not using very much off of this system right now. So pretty much we're charging. I'm gonna go ahead and actually turn off the load. Okay, so as we turn off the load, look, I turned one off. We're not catastrophic here. It's not like suddenly we're jumping up into the stratosphere. Now we are taking no load off the system and just charging the batteries, okay? Nothing is blowing up, nothing is going crazy. We're not above our unsafe limit, you know, the 58 volts. We're still at a safe charging limit for these batteries. Go up one more time, Jeremy. All right. Now we are reaching that point where we're at the top end where a car would be charging. Jeshwanth, we are at 24 amps. At 58 volts, 24 times 58.
It's almost 1.4 kilowatts.
1.4 kilowatts, 1,400 watts. Okay, we're not gonna keep it at 1,400, we're gonna back it down. But this number is not going to go crazy, guys. It's going to be a very, very gradual change. And remember, our battery bank is tiny, plus we had no load on the system at that moment. And go for me back up to that number again, Jeremy, because I wasn't watching. Okay, guys, we could charge at the 58 volt range for a while. We probably really, with a lead acid, would be safe to even go up to, say, 60 volts, because that is just a little bit higher than what a car alternator is charging your battery in your car at. So whatever we determine that upper safe limit to be, you can see we're not even getting to that. We're not even hitting 58 volts. And right now we are just charging the batteries. There is no load coming off of this. We could go up one more notch. Let's take it up to 550. All right, so now we're getting into the state where we're being a little bit above what an alternator would do on a car. So now we're pushing about 59 volts in and 24 amps into the system. So now we would very quickly get into a state where you could start damaging the batteries if you stayed here for very long. 58.8 is probably still a perfectly safe amount that we're pushing in, and you can actually see it is dropping. So we're not hurting the batteries at 58.8, but I wouldn't really want to push them beyond that. So we're pushing in, well, the amps keep slowly dropping here. So we're pushing now 23 amps in at 58.6. So things are dropping. What's that work out to?
1.3 kilowatts.
1.3 kilowatts, yeah. So our batteries are taking less and less power because they're approaching their full state, which is why things are dropping off. So our system is going to always be monitoring that battery voltage and keeping you safe and keeping your system safe. That's the whole point here, guys. That's what it's all about. Now, what the cool thing is that if you want to look over here, because the batteries are reaching full charge, we're starting to drop our amperage. Now we're only down to 21 amps that are being pushed into the system. Because they're starting to get full, they begin to give more resistance, and we can't push as much we can't push as much amperage into them. That's all normal operation for a battery system once they start getting full. So they go through bulk charging, then they go into absorption, and then after that it's like float and trickle stages. So as we see the amperage dropping, the voltage will continue to rise, and that's when we would just begin furling in to control the voltage so we don't cook the battery bank. All right, let's bring that down to a safer level. So guys, basically, by Jeremy dialing back down, that is simulating something very, very important here, something we can do that other small-scale turbines out on the market cannot do. We have the furling capability. Our patented furling system is going to act like a governor on the top end. Basically, when Jeremy turns this dial down and we drop our RPMs, then the furling system would simply furl in, say 10%, and that will drop our RPMs the same way. So by reducing our exposure to the wind, our RPMs will drop off naturally, because the torque that's required by the generator is now going to be greater than what the turbine can produce, so it's going to drop our RPMs. So that governing system will be a perfect balance. Our furling system kind of does all of the things that a charge controller would do to protect the batteries. In the event of a furling system failure, we will have a secondary system on. We'll go into that in another video of how that's going to work, but we will have another separate fail-safe system in case the furling system does not work or something would get lodged in the mechanism and it can't furl, whatever. So don't worry about that. We've got that covered. We had the furling system on our unit up on top for over a year, and it never had a problem. So we're pretty confident that our furling system is going to do exactly what we're saying it's going to do and give you the reliability that you need on your end to keep your battery bank safe. But there will be a secondary system, we'll go into that in another video, to also keep your battery bank safe as well. So pretty much here it is, guys. This is, you saw it right here live. We were pushing the system up to where we were putting 1.2 kilowatts of charging power into our battery bank. We could go higher, but I don't want to, push the system to crazy levels. We did push it to all the way to 3 kilowatts by getting up to 800 RPM or something.
Yeah.
That's an unrealistic number, but I could see in actual wind conditions getting up into the 1.5 kilowatt range. So we're going to have to make sure we have systems sized to handle that, because I want to make as much power as we can for you guys. And I think all of you guys share that same goal. We don't want to cut it off and say, nope, 500 is the limit. Just because we're rated at 500 watts in a 25 mile an hour wind doesn't mean we couldn't overproduce in a 30 mile an hour wind or 35 mile an hour wind. We're going to give you every single bit of power that we can give you. We're going to determine what those safe RPM limits are. We're going to determine what those safe amperage limits are. This isn't just something cobbled together with crazy off-the-shelf parts. These are custom-built parts and pieces that were meant to work together synergistically. At this point, we'll do more videos, guys, explaining more pieces and parts of our system. We're going to show when the new scoops are on to show how they perform. Right now, we're going to help you understand how all these pieces fit together in our system. It's not smoke and mirrors here, guys. This is the real deal. This is how the new system is going to work, and it's going to be an absolutely amazing system to put on for your home, your small business. That's what we're trying to do here at Harmony Turbines every day. Give you something that is going to finally give you the value that you've been looking for in small wind power generation. So if you have not thought about investing, maybe you're new to our channel, maybe you're just seeing this technology for the first time, guys, we have finally cracked all of the pieces of the puzzle to get into the beta program that we need to, where we're going to start putting units out at customer sites and doing prolonged testing there to make sure that everything is working how we want. Any bugs that we find, we'll squash. Basically at this point, it's moving into that beta stage. So the floodgates are open. We made the announcement in our last video. And again, here, our beta program is now officially opened. So Harmony Turbines is moving into the next phase of its development. If you want to invest in something really amazing like what we've got here, now's your time. Our funding round is open. So thank you to all of our current investors, our followers, Patreon subscribers, YouTube subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has made this possible, helping us get to where we are today. Chris, Jeremy, Jeshwanth, and Cheryl from Harmony Turbines, saying take care. Until next time.
Bye.
Harmony Turbines. We now have the power to change the world.